Hari Om, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed Swamiji's Yajna. I think it was just marvelous the way he did it. Uh, yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Anyway, coming back to our text now, we are in the portion where Bhagwan Shankaracharya is explaining Samadhi, the nature of Samadhi. Samadhi is the big break of the word. So the intellect, sama equanimous. So where the intellect is fixed, where can it be in an equanimous position is only when it is fixed in Brahman. And that is what Samadhi is. There are two types of Samadhi, Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is what he's talking about. Vikalpa thought, Savikalpa with thought. So even that is not easy. Where in Savikalpa Samadhi, where there is the thought, I am Brahman. So there is an I, which is the ego. And then there is Brahman. So I am Brahman. But then in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, this thought, the seeker doesn't waver from this thought even for half a second. I mean, even we can say, I am Brahman, but how many other thoughts are going to come in between there, right? So Savikalpa Samadhi, then when he fixes his mind on this thought, on this Vikalpa, that I am Brahman, everything disappears. And what remains is only I am, the big I, knowledge. And that then is called as nirvikalpa, without any thought. There is no thought, I am Brahman. There is only I, and it is not a thought. It's a thought-free state. That has to be understood. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a thought-free state. It's not a thoughtless state. Thoughtless, we are in thoughtless. We don't think, and then we do things without thinking sometimes. But when we say nirvikalpa, it is free of thought, not thoughtless. It is thought free. So it's not a thought. I is not a thought. I am Brahman is a thought, and therefore savikalpa. But even to remain in that one thought takes a great deal of purity of mind. And then what happens in 354, just a quick revision, what Bhagwan is saying is, when that stage of nirvikalpa samadhi is reached, it's not a stage, but for lack of better word, we say when you reach there, the knots of the heart are cut asunder. The knots are avidya, kama, karma. We saw the cycle. It is the ignorance of our true self which gives rise to desires, and desires give rise to action. And action will always give result. And because the result comes, that result has to be exhausted, a birth will come as well. But because the original cause of action is ignorance, and that ignorance only is now destroyed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the chain of reaction from that ignorance also is totally destroyed. The cause is destroyed, so the effect cannot remain. Desire is an effect and action is an effect. Cause is ignorance. So ignorance is removed. And then in that state, you, I, this and that, there is absolutely no differentiation. There is no variety. Kathopanishad calls it, this nana disappears. Nana, I told you, nana is of course a maternal grandfather, but in Sanskrit nana means variety. There will not be any. We see millions, trillions of varieties we see in animals and plants and inert objects and people, everything, all that just disappears in the oneness. What is cause is ignorance. The result of ignorance is desire, and the result of desire is action. And so when the cause is destroyed, both effects are destroyed. So the inherent defects in the intellect, which are causing these defects, I gave you the example. Electricity is exactly the same, but if you say that in this room the light is not very bright, then it is the defect of the bulb. Because if you put a 40-watt bulb in one room and a 100-watt bulb in another room, you cannot say that the defect belongs to electricity, it belongs to the upadhi. So the differences are not in the Atman, in Brahman, they are in the intellect. So that is why it is a defect of the upadhi, The intellect, which is the upadhi, is defective. And then to reach that state, he gives us the sadhana in 356. The self-effort is basically, it is control of the senses, control of the mind, which is nothing but purification of the mind. The mind has to be highly, highly, highly purified to reach that stage. And then he says that those who attain this samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, alone can get freed from the cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, there is a birth waiting for us. And then when this, because of the conditionings, upadhis, conditionings, we see the variety. Because I consider myself to be the body, all other bodies are different from me. They will always be different. As long as you are identified with the body, you're not going to find anything similar to your own body. Never, ever. Mind, if you're identified with the mind, your mind is going to be different from other minds. So unless that identification is broken, and the way to break that identification is to attach to the highest. And that attachment happens in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And when that happens, the identification is broken, and that is the cause, and the effect is the differences that I see, the many, many varieties that I see, that will disappear as well. And he gives us an example of the worm. The worm is thinking. It's as you think, so shall you become. So when that little, what is it, the pupa, it's getting stung by that wasp constantly is in fear of that wasp, so it actually turns into a wasp. And then again, the same example is repeated in 360. Insect renouncing all its activities. The means what happens is, out of fear of that sting of the wasp, that pupa forgets everything else, and that is where that comparison is. So we must forget the entire world for that higher. When we can do that, which will be in Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Savikalpa, even to reach that stage, we need a high degree of purity of the mind. And that's how we'll get detached. Even, I think, Swami Shwaniji very beautifully put it. He said, once you know what you want, then you will know what is to be given up. So that's where knowledge comes in. That's why we have to have this knowledge. Like, how do I even know what I want? I didn't even know Brahman, before I came into the mission or whatever, right? So how do I know? Knowledge will give us that. Shravanam will give us that information. And then when I know that that is what I want, then I know what I need to give up. So when I want the self, the not self will have to be given up. We cannot have both. You cannot eat the cake and have it too. That doesn't work in Vedanta. You need to give up something. Okay. And then he goes on to say that this Atman or Brahman is extremely subtle, and therefore it cannot be reached by the gross. There is no, you cannot reach it by the gross mind, intellect, body, mind, intellect equipment. These are gross, and therefore it cannot be reached. So therefore the intellect has to be made very, very subtle. Subtlety is purity. Okay, that's how you know it. So we were on verse 362. We are going to start with 362. Am I right? Correct? Yes. I have my bookmark there. And I actually have a little note put here from Subodh Vedanta as well, because she said something. So I thought, oh, this pertains to this verse. So I wrote it down. So anyway, let's chant this verse. Yatha suvarnam putapakashodhitam tyaktva malam swatma gunam samruchati tatha manasatvarjastamo mamalam dhyanena santyajya sameti tattvam. Just as gold, by thorough heating in fire, gives up its impurities and gains its own luster, so too the mind through meditation sheds its impurities of sattva, rajas and tamas and attains the nature of Brahman. So I think the same example was given by Swamiji. The gold is basically pure. So when it is mined and then it is put into fire, they are not giving luster to the gold. The gold which is already luster, they're only removing the unwanted matter from there, which is the impurities. And so once that is removed, the original luster of the gold, which was already there with the gold, will shine. It is very similar to our example of cloud and sun. It is not like the sun became bright because the sun was bright already. The sun is always bright, but now the clouds are covering, as though covering the sun. So when we remove the cloud, so here also the mind is basically pure, because it has come from the sattvic aspect of the elements. So basically there is purity of the mind. What is impure is rajas and tamas. What we have to understand in this verse is this one word where Gurudev Bhagwan has said sheds its impurities of sattva, rajas and tamas. So that word has to be understood correctly, sattva here. Not that it has any different meaning, but we have to understand, because see, so that's what happens. Sometimes there can be confusion, because we have been saying sattva is pure and rajas and tamas are the impurities. And now in this verse, it is being said that you need to transcend sattva as well. So we have seen in Vivekachudamani only in one of the earlier verses, what is there is sattva, and then what is known as shuddha sattva is there. So extreme sattva. Because why is sattva also in the final analysis, even sattva becomes an impurity, because Brahman is beyond sattva. That has to be understood. But the thing is, you cannot go beyond sattva when you are at the rajasic and tamasic level. Therefore, I've given you always the example. Yes, the child has to go to grade 12, but it has to go through kindergarten and grade 1 and 2 and 3. So rajas and tamas, you have to put in self-effort. We saw that in chapter 3 also, where tamas requires a lot of pain and effort and time to be removed, tamasic desires. That is what we're doing. We're removing tamas, we're reducing rajas. Now, you come to sattva, and from sattva to shuddha sattva is grace. So you keep your mind at the sattvic level. And the transcending beyond sattva will happen automatically. That's why grace is required. So see, surrender also very beautifully Swamiji explained. You do what you can do, and then you leave the rest to God. So that is what surrender is. So it is in our hands to reduce rajas and tamas. That is self-effort. That is purushartha. That has to be. Because if you say, okay, so when grace will come, then rajas will go, then that way grace is not going to come. So that self-effort we have to put. We come into sattva, and then we say, okay, Lord, I have come up to here. Now you take me beyond this. And that is what is meant here by saying impurity of sattva. In the highest, I've given you gradations of sin also. There are gradations. So at a very lower level, then it's like, cheating, stealing, lying, that sort of thing. But then when you go to the level of the jiva, that is at the level of the body. When you go to the level of the jiva, then it's doership, and enjoyership is sin. So you're doing good, but if you say, see, I'm doing so much good, then that is considered as sin in Vedanta. Okay? Because outwardly, of course, you're doing a good thing. So how can that be sin? So there are these gradations. And then finally, even to consider yourself to be jiva becomes sin. To consider the deity, God, something other than you becomes sin. These are the higher level. So this is what this is. Rajas and tamas, we all know their impurities, they need to be reduced. Okay. How is sattva then? Because you have to transcend sattva, then sattva also becomes an impurity at that level. Okay. So for us, let us come up to sattva, and then let us wait for the grace. Okay. So that is what it is. Because from sattva, you need to go to shuddha sattva. Shuddha sattva is realization. That's what this thing is. So when you go to Savikalpa Samadhi, I am Brahman. So extreme, there is sattva and there is no rajas and tamas. It is not an action. Just to think. Remember, even Shravanam, Swamiji said, it is listening. There is no active work, active action going on there. So this mananam, that is, and nididhyasanam, then finally, it's not an action, I am Brahman. And then you wait. Then you wait for the grace. and then it'll happen. So when you remain in Savikalpa Samadhi for a long time, long period of time, to reach Savikalpa also it's births, many births. Then once you reach Savikalpa, there is time, and then it'll take you. God Himself will take you further. Okay, that's what this is. So how is this to be achieved? Now this is what he says in the next one. निरन्तराभ्यासवशान्तदित्थं पक्वं मनो ब्रह्मणि लीयते यदा तदा समाधिः सविकल्पवर्जितः स्वतोद्वयानन्दरसानुभावकः. Thus, purified by constant practice. This is what I told you. You have to remain in Savikalpa Samadhi for a long time. When the mind merges with Brahman, then Samadhi passes from Savikalpa to the Nirvikalpa stage, leading directly to the experience of the bliss of Brahman, the non-dual. So constant practice in the beginning should be to reduce Rajas and Tamas. Constant. It is therefore constant vigilance is required on this path. Every single moment we have to be very vigilant that Rajas is not cropping up, Tamas is not cropping up. Okay, then when you have highly pure, when you are at the level of Sattva, you will be able to remain at the level of Savikalpa Samadhi, where, what is that? Where the thought is only I am Brahman, that's it. There are no other thoughts in Savikalpa Samadhi. And then by constant practice, this is what the seekers do, the yogis. I've given you the example of Raman Maharshi also. He at age 16, he attained, he came to Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and then he came back out of it, and because what happens with the yogis is they practice, and they reach Savikalpa Samadhi, they come out of it. So what they do is they go practice again. It's very similar to, you learn driving or you learn cooking. What do? Recipe. Same recipe you'll do over and over and over and over again, right? Or driving. You drive again, and then you drive at night, and then you drive in the drain, and then you drive, you keep driving. So that's exactly the same thing. So they reach Savikalpa Samadhi, they experience that bliss, then they come out of it. So they go back into it. And that's the constant practice. Nirantara abhyasa practice, repetition. So this is what he wanted to do. So he left home. Raman Maharshi left home and he went to the back of the temple and just sat in Savikalpa and went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So that practice, constant practice of Savikalpa will lead you into Nirvikalpa, will lead you by the grace of God. Up to Savikalpa is self-effort. Purushartha is very much required. That's why we have the Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, self-effort. Dhyana is Savikalpa. Dhyana. The dhyana is only, the meditation is only I am Brahman. There is absolutely no other thought. And then when constantly they stay in that stage, then they move into Savikalpa. Pakwam manaha. Pakwam, literally ripe, but here mature. Mature, serene, calm. What is a mature mind? See, when person is getting agitated, it's very immature. He's getting agitated, getting angry about small things. Like that we say, no? So when the mind is mature, it'll be more calm. If it's a calm mind, it's always a bit mature. Huh? Sometimes even small children we see, they're very calm and all, very mature. Huh? Like that we say, no? This is what it is, pakwam. Not that it becomes ripe somehow. Brahmani liyate yata. Then it will just merge. Liyate is merge. Laya. We have the word pralaya, final merger. That way it will merge into Brahman. Tada samadhi savikalpa varjitaha. Then that samadhi is varjita without thought. Absolutely no thought. It is a thought-free state, like I told you already. And then swataha advayananda rasanubhavakaha. Then it will be the direct experience of the bliss. So once that is experienced, that bliss, will that person run after little things? Think about it. That is the goal. The whole running only stops. when Vedanta says stop the running, and everything will stop. So this is what that verse means. Okay. So constant practice is required for, like, at our level, we need practice of reducing rajas and tamas. This is talking about higher seekers. This constant practice is practice of savikalpa samadhi. But to reach savikalpa samadhi also, there's a huge lot of practice that we require. Okay, but once you reach. Now, what will happen? And like Gurudev has put, therefore meditate, meditate, and meditate. So constantly remain in that, because nirantara is without a break. Antara is distance. So nirantara means no break. Without a break, you start. If you are wondering, I mean, I just had this thought. See this, if at our level I'm talking, because the question will, this is for highly evolved seekers. Now we are not that highly evolved. I am not, maybe you are, but I am not. So then the question comes, what do you mean? Like, how can, I've got a job, I've got children, I've got to work, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So how do you say Nirantar? How can I stay in I am Brahman Savikalpa Samadhi? So at our level, this Nirantara Samadhi can be watered down to be in the present. Keep the mind in the present. Whatever is required to be done, duty, like we have seen that in chapter 3, a duty-oriented life would become this Nirantara Abhyas to reduce Rajas and Tamas at our level. The verse is not talking about our level, huh? I'm just telling you. Because every time I read, because even I know I'm not at that stage, then I need to translate it into my life. What should I do in my life, in my condition, in my position, that I will maybe someday in some birth, I will reach that. So then the answer is, first is that karma yoga, keep the mind in the present, withdraw from all the things which are not your duties. Don't get unnecessarily involved in other things. All these practices, see, this is how long to meditate per day does the verse prescribe. Actually, meditation is a 24/7 thing. That's why I'm explaining to you. But to begin with, try just sitting for 5 minutes. Just sit. Try that. That is meditation. At the very initial stages, just sit and see how many thoughts come to your mind. That's where we have to start. That is kindergarten. So just say 5 minutes. This is my time. 5 minutes. I'm not going to think about my work. I'm not going to think about my children, my grandchildren, what I have to do. No. These 5 minutes are meant for me and God alone. Try that. That's where you have to start. Asan Siddhi has to be this thing. The verse is not saying it. That's why I'm saying the verse is not telling that, because it's already been told, and this is for high level seekers. So Raman Maharshi just went behind the temple and he never came out. How long? Months and months he was back there. So it's not for us, that stage, that level. We are not at that level. That's why I'm telling you right now, keep the mind in the present. That itself is samadhi at this level. Okay. Now, what will happen in samadhi is what Bhagavan is explaining again. Samadhinanena samasta vasana granthir vinasho khila karma nashaha antarbahi sarvataiva sarvada swarupa visvurtirayatnatasyat. By this samadhi, all desires which are like knots are destroyed. All work comes to an end, and within and without, everywhere and always, takes place a spontaneous manifestation of one's own real nature. So there are 3 things that will happen in samadhi. First is all the vasanas get destroyed. We have seen in vasanas, there are 3 types. There is sanchita karma, that is vasanas. It is karma in subtle form, is called vasana. Sanchita, prarabdha, and agami. Sanchita, what I have collected in the past, coming from chi dhatu. Prarabdha, Prakarshena Arabdha, that which has now very well begun, and Agami, future, what is going to come in the future. Knowledge of oneness with Brahman, knowledge of oneness with Atman, or the knowledge that the self in me is the self in all, will immediately destroy Sanchita karma and Agami karma, the past collected vasanas and those which are going to come in the future. They both get destroyed. But Prarabdha karma is extremely strong. It does not get destroyed by knowledge. Prarabdha karma can only be destroyed by exhaustion. It has to be exhausted, whatever prarabdha is there of the body. And do remember that prarabdha is only to the body. It is never to the soul. There is no prarabdha for soul. For Atma, there is no prarabdha. What it is to the body. Therefore, whatever happens, happens to the body. COVID happens to the body. It doesn't happen to the soul. Anything that is happening, illness, fever, whatever, or I get hurt, I feel hurt, it's happening to the mind. Atma doesn't get hurt. Insult, I feel insult, somebody dishonored me, they insulted me, happening to the intellect. So these things are happening. So now these past and future vasanas being destroyed, prarabdha gets exhausted in that life. And the yogi, and here the meaning of yogi is the realized master, one who has become one with Brahman, comes to know that this is my prarabdha. And he exhausts it. This point also it was brought out in Subodh Vedanta, that this is my prarabdha. He accepts. Anything happens to the body, he says, okay, that's the prarabdha of the body. It has got nothing to do with me. An ordinary person who has not realized, ignorant person like us, we say it is happening to me. That is the difference. The realized master says this is happening to the body, to my body. So I am something else. This is my body. Now my body's prarabdha is now inviting this, whatever, and it's happening to the body. What has it got to do with me? This is what the realized master will say. It's got nothing to do with me. I am Brahma. But what I say, oh, it happened to me. Now why did it happen to me? And it's not happening to anybody else. And then we'll go on with that. That's the first thing that happens. Second thing is the granthehe vinashaha akhila karmanasha, because the granthi is a knot. That's what we explained in the previous verse also. Bhagavan is repeating just to make us realize the importance, like what will how much gain will be there if we really reach that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, what things we will gain. So this granthi, this knot, what is the knot? Knot of ignorance, because of which karma nahasha will be there. The work will be, now work getting destroyed is not a physical destruction of the work, it is the doership that will get destroyed. That is, doership and enjoyship is what is causing future births. So karma nasha should never be understood as that now I don't have to do anything. The realized master scriptures give them a choice. Those who realize, they can choose not to do anything. Raman Maharshi was one example. And then they have a choice to do a lot of work. Swami Vivekananda was one example. Gurudev is another example. But there is karma nasha for them also, because that karma is not coming out of ego. It is for the good of the totality. And they know that if this is going to happen, it will happen. It has got nothing to do with me. That's what is meant by grantehe vinashaha. The grantha, those are the three knots of the heart. Upanishad also talks of them, that these knots get destroyed because avidya gets destroyed. Ignorance gets destroyed. What is the ignorance? Ignorance is I am body, I am mind, I am intellect, the world is real, my happiness is in the world. I will feel happy when I get this. I will feel happy when I meet that person. I will feel happy only when there is sunshine. When there is rain, I am not happy. All this falls under ignorance. All of this. Complete. Okay, then what happens? Third one, antarbahi. You can take 3 or 4, like you can, the not getting destroyed, number 2, karma nasha, number 3, or the not getting destroyed is the cause because of which karma nasha is happening. And then the third one can be antarbahi sarvata eva sarvada. So within and without, he will see that oneness, because now he has seen the self in me is the self in all. So he will always see the oneness. And very beautifully put by Swami Yeshwanand ji, is that the realized person his understanding is something else and perception is something else. So the perception remains the same as the ignorant person, which I have always told you, that the world doesn't suddenly disappear for a realized master. The realized master is living in the same world that we are living in. It's not like suddenly he starts seeing some other things and hallucinate. No, there's nothing like that. Isn't the same? But his understanding of that world is totally. Whereas my understanding is this world is real, and only in sunshine I'll be happy, and only if I get that object I'll be happy, and only with this person I'm happy, and if that person comes in my life, then I don't like that person. This understanding the realized master doesn't have. The world being the same for both, the understanding is different. And this is what it is. Antar bahihi sarvata eva sarvada. He knows it's all one. The person whom I say I don't like, the ignorant person, he looks at that person, he says, he's my reflection only. He's not even different. Where is there to like or dislike anybody? He's not different from me. Do you look in the mirror and say, oh, I hate this reflection, huh? Nose, reflection, nose, too big nose. You say that because you know it's me. That's why you don't say that. So the realized master is looking at the entire world saying, this is my reflection, this is my reflection, this is my jnani. If it is a bhakta, he says, this is my Krishna, this is my Krishna. Now how will he say that person ugly? But he is looking at him and he sees Krishna. Do you think he'll ever call his Ishta Devata as ugly? That's bhakti. That's true devotion. This is knowledge. Okay? So Swarupa Vispurti Yatnataha Syat, like there will be this spontaneous, I can only, this is theory only, experience is not there, but this is what he will spontaneously, that love will come. Because if there are, say, multiple mirrors in the room, will I not love every reflection of that? Suppose you walk into a hall of mirrors, okay? And it could be the mirror, those magical mirrors wherein one you're short, one you're fat, one you're tall, one you're, all those different. Even then, will you hate the dwarf reflection? Will you hate any reflection? Think about it. Think about it. There'll be a spontaneous love for all the reflections. Doesn't matter if it's dwarf, it's me. Doesn't matter if it's fat, obese reflection. It is me. It is me. It is me. That's the spontaneous, that's what happens to the realized masters. So that spontaneous love is there. And therefore, they will never see any differences and never come under the sway of likes and dislikes. That's why Bhagavan has given us that thing. Don't come under their sway. They are your enemies. Okay? Likes and dislikes. Because it's making you differentiate. Why are they enemies? And this is what we want. This is the goal. Now at a lower stage, I like this, I don't like this, I like this. Constantly, oh my God, yeah. So that's why. That's why don't come under their sway. Right now, start practicing. This is what is needed. Now, once again, he's another verse, very nice. Shrute shatagunam vidyat mananam mananadapi nididhyasam lakshagunam anantam nirvikalpakam. Reflection should be considered 100 times superior to listening, and meditation 100,000 times superior to reflection. But nirvikalpa samadhi is infinitely more sacred. So these are the gradations. There is Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. In Nididhyasanam, there is Savikalpa Samadhi and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So Shravanam, better to listen. We have seen this gradation even in chapter 3. Better than a karmi is a karma yogi, and the best is karma sannyasi. So listening is better than not listening at all. You see, because even in the beginning stages, if you feel that you don't understand, you have to continue to listen. Then one day it will click. So he says, listening is my voice breaking? That's what. Okay, I'm sorry.
I can hear you clearly, Jaydeep.
Yeah, no, because that's the message. Adit,
yes.
Okay, it's better now. So Shravanam is listening, which is the first step. at least we should listen. We should listen to what the scriptures are saying. We should listen to what the guru is telling us, what the teacher is telling us. But better to because see, this also came in Subodh Vedanta. He says Shravanam, there is a dependence on the guru. Shravanam is listening, so it presupposes somebody else. You're listening. It's not listening to a CD or a tape, because you can't ask questions. And the CD or the tape cannot judge you. Judge you means the CD doesn't know how much you have progressed. But if you're listening from a teacher, the teacher can assess your maturity. And Shravanam, the word itself, it doesn't say read. Reading, it doesn't say. Shravanam, it says. So Shravanam from somebody who is a Kshotriya, means he has heard from his guru. You need to listen to a person who has heard from, not that the person has done bookish knowledge. Then that is a professor in the university. He has, learned from the books, and now he is telling, and he is doing it for money. He's not doing it for, he is getting paid. So that is not what this Shrotriya, this Shravanam does. That is not the meaning. The meaning is from a Sadguru who has heard from his master. And then better than Shravanam is Mananam, because Mananam, you're giving up the support of the Guru. That's why Mananam. That means you have matured enough to think on your own. In Shravanam, you are listening, so you don't try to think while you're listening. Listen 100%, you listen. And when you listen 100%, you will remember what you have heard. And when you remember that, churn it in your mind. At that point, churn it. That is Mananam. So you have now given up the support of the Guru. You have given up the support of listening to somebody else, because that somebody else's support is there when you're listening. Then therefore Mananam becomes superior, because it's like, riding a tricycle and then a bicycle and then a unicycle. So bicycle is better than tricycle, and then unicycle is the best, because then you've got the greatest balance in unicycle. That way, Shravanam, Mananam is better than Shravanam. And then Nididhyasanam, Savikalpa Samadhi is much, much better, but Nirvikalpa is the best. This is what is being said here. Superior to reflect, but Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So meditation here is referring to Savikalpa Samadhi. That is meditation. Nididhyasanam, Savikalpa, where the mind is kept on that thought constantly. I am Brahman, without a break, without any, absolutely no gap in that thought. So, of course, that is very much high, but Nirvikalpa is the best, because he already has told us what the result is of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That is final realization. That is what will give us Videha Mukti, and then from there we can practice Nirvikalpa Samadhi for many, many months, years, to get Jivan Mukti. Okay, that's what it is. So, I have my notes here from probably before. Shravana, support of the teacher, that's what I told you. In Mananam, there is no support of the teacher. And Nididhyasanam is facing your own mind. These are my notes from way back 10 years ago. Shravanam is meant for removing ignorance. That is why, because we are ignorant of the fact that we are Brahman. We don't know that. We didn't know that. That's why we need to listen to that. Then any doubts that come. So Mananam is meant for removal of doubt. So doubt comes in your mind. You try to remove it on your own by reflecting on whatever was said. And if you can't remove it on your own, ask the teacher. And that's why when we have, after every text, we have the discussion group. That is the Mananam part. And that is a group Mananam. And in the sense, you do alone that verse, you think about it, and then you present it to the group. And then if there is something there which needs to be said, then the moderator will say it. So that Mananam, there is no support of teacher. And then in Nididhyasanam, the wandering mind is now controlled. So it's even less support. Subtle, na? Mind is very subtle. So to control the mind is very difficult. But that is the aim of Nididhyasana. Because what are you doing? When you want to keep that mind single pointed on one thought, it requires great effort. But there is no other support. It's only you and your mind. So that's why. That's why it said that this is These are the steps, and that is superior means more effort. Huh? Here, superior, subtler also you can take it as. We also saw this word just last time in chapter 3. The senses are superior to the body, and then the mind is superior to the senses, and the intellect is superior to the mind, and Atman is the most superior. And there I told you, superior is subtle, and subtle is that which is more pervasive. So here, when it says superior, it is subtle and is difficult. Anything, a higher grade will be difficult than a lower grade, studying, right? So that is how this superior is to be understood. Okay. So remember this, Shravanam is meant for removing ignorance, Mananam is meant for removing doubts, and Nididhyasanam is meant for controlling the mind and removing erroneous thinking. And what is the erroneous thinking? I am, body, mind, intellect is erroneous thinking. That needs to be removed. Okay. Nirvikalpa samadhina svutam brahma. Sorry. Nirvikalpa samadhina svutam brahma tattvamavagyamate dhruvam nanyatha chalataya manogatehe pratyayantara vimishritam bhavet. By Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the true nature of Brahman is clearly and definitely manifest, never otherwise, for then the mind being unsteady is apt to be mixed with other perceptions. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi is being told to be the most final. That's a final step. There is nothing beyond Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This is what is being said. The true nature of Brahman is clearly and definitely manifest. Why? Because now it is your own experience. So far, the Guru was telling you, Tattvamasi, but Tattvamasi is an instruction, and the result of Tattvamasi, you are that, should be Aham Brahmasmi. Now, when that is your own experience, will you ever have any doubt about it? If I were to give you a worldly example, very, very worldly, very, very common, if you are, say, coming to my house for the first time, or any place, our ashram for the first time, I will tell you, give you directions, and now once you reach that place, it's your very, very your own experience. Will you ever doubt that this place is here after that? When you yourself experiences this is why this Nirvikalpa Samadhi becomes extremely important, because it is your, see, so far the Guru is telling us, yeah, who knows whether there's Brahman? Yeah, okay, you experience Brahman. How do I know I will experience? But now you have put in the effort. You have reached Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It is your own experience. Can anybody else tell you then that no, there is no Brahman? Once you experienced it yourself. That's why it's clearly manifest to you. Manifest not as an external object, but you yourself, that you are that final subject. There is no other subject. Never otherwise. So anything else, even Savikalpa Samadhi, slight traces of ego are there. That's why I am Brahman is there in Savikalpa Samadhi. I is there. Though it is very, very thinned out, very, very purified, yet it is there. So that's why this I, only I, or I am, that's it. That's what it is. For then the mind being unsteady is apt to be mixed with other perceptions. Therefore, as long as this I am Brahman, as long as there is a vikalpa, as long as there is a thought, there can be other thought coming in. Therefore, Savikalpa Samadhi, then it is a thought-free state. You have transcended the mind, intellect at that point. No thought can enter there. Every other, up to Savikalpa Samadhi, Vikalpa, as long as this Vikalpa is there, Vikalpa, with thought, some other thought can creep in. That's what it is. Therefore, this Nirantar Abhyas is required. Like every time when the mind wanders, you bring it back to I am Brahman. You bring it back, you bring it back, you bring it back. This is for higher seekers. It is not for us. For us, you know what, when we are karma yogis, we are so much into work. When you're doing a certain work, whatever task is at hand, when the mind wanders, bring it back to that task. When the mind wanders, bring it back. When the mind starts worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, bring it back to the present moment. Say, okay, it's like tomorrow, like I have to, so do you think it'll rain tomorrow? Then will I be, is it raining today? Are you traveling right now? No, you are at home. Now keep your mind here. Then tomorrow, whatever comes, you face it. But be in the present at all times. And if there is something to be done the next day, definitely make a plan. Oh, it's going to take me this much time to go, so I should leave home at this time. Oh, this is what is required, this is what I need to take, this is what I need to wear, because it could be a specific thing where you need to wear a certain type of clothes. All that planning you do, that is not meant by don't think of tomorrow, but this worrying part you let go, and then face the day, face the present, basically. Okay, I'll deal with it when it comes in the present, whatever comes in the present. That's why this is saying that when you have a thought, up to savikalpa there is thought, then that thought can be penetrated by some other thought. Once you reach beyond that thought-free state, then there is no chance of coming back. We'll take one more verse. Ata samadha swayatendriya san nirantaram shantamana pratichi vidvamsayadvantamanadya vidyaya kritam sadekatva vilokanena. Therefore, with a serene mind and the senses controlled, ever drown the mind in the subjective supreme self, and by realizing your identity with that reality, destroy the darkness created by the beginningless nascence, avidya. So, therefore, so he has given us the result of nirvikalpa samadhi. The knots are broken, avidya is gone. There's a continuous, spontaneous experience of bliss. And therefore, he's saying you practice. Okay? Now, serene mind and senses control. That's what Bhagavad Gita is telling us. Senses have to be under our control. There is no chance of even reaching savikalpa samadhi if the senses are running wild in every direction. It can't. So this is the basic instruction. Ever drown the mind in the subjective supreme self. Now, here the question, see, I told you this portion is for very evolved yogis. So how do I translate this into my life? Ever drown the mind in the subjective supreme self. I would translate it for us, ever drown the mind in the present moment. What is at hand right now? What do I need to do right now? Like right now, I need to only speak about this, and right now you only need to listen. Now don't think of what is going to happen tomorrow. What will I do tomorrow? This happened yesterday. I'm watering this down. This verse, Bhagwan is not telling us, but this question can come to us. So, what do you mean? I've got small children. I've got to cook for my family. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got a job. How do you expect me to drown my mind in the Supreme Self at all times? We don't. Otherwise, that's an impossible thing. Yes, if the yogi is that evolved, then by that time he has already given up all his attachments. Have we? No, we have. We are in the house. Okay, so keep your mind in the present. This is how for us we should practice karma yoga. Controlling senses has to be done for all. There is no other way. All spiritual. If we say we are spiritual, I was at a wedding today. There's a wedding. So this wedding had Sangeet last night and reception tomorrow, which I declined both those. And I went to the temple, Gurudwara. It was in the Gurudwara. I went there. Then there was the groom's mother had invited me. The groom, I know them. They're actually mission members. He's a Balvihar child. Now he's getting married. He was in my first class when I used to teach Balvihar in my own home. He used to come. So anyway, there was a Caucasian woman there. She was her friend. Anyway, so she said to me, she said, "Why don't you come for the reception tomorrow?" She said to me, "I'm going and we can go." I said, "You know what? I'm a spiritual teacher. And I don't generally now go out after 4 o'clock. And Sangeet and reception, this is the main thing for me. The wedding is the main thing, actual wedding. And then it's happening in the temple, which is very important to me. The temple itself, being in a temple, being in a Gurdwara, it doesn't matter which temple it is. That is very important to me. It is daytime. It is in Vancouver. The others are Surrey and North Van. I said, I don't go. I don't. That's why I've declined. So this thing has to come. This withdrawal. See, the invitation is for 3 things. Do I have to accept all those? But then even this requires a certain amount of dispassion. Okay, so those of you who are even younger, you want to go do it. But senses at some point in time, this control has to come. And I told you, control in the form of choice. Choice. Don't suppress. So there's absolutely no pain for me to decline. I was happy to decline. I'm like, decline, accept. Wedding, yes, accept. In the morning, daytime, Vancouver, Gurdwara, perfect. Fashionably late, I arrived and then left on time. Because in the morning they have that milli and breakfast. No. Exact 10 to 11, 11 o'clock, the groom walked in, marriage, 1 o'clock, all done, out. So that thing is in my control. That's my choice. I could have gone there for breakfast and then these and what is the point? Wedding I got, right? So these are the choices that we can make. We'll stop here for today and we will continue. Still quite a few more verses on this thing. That's okay. Any questions? Okay.
Jayaji, Mohini here. When we say reflection and meditation, is my understanding, okay? When we reflect on something, it is many thoughts come in that, right? Wrong, right, positive, negative. That's reflection. But when we say meditation, reflection should be part of meditation. Or is meditation just to be on one point, whether positive, negative, that is meditation?
Yes. Reflection, mananam is reflection. The purpose of reflection is to remove doubts. So I'm not talking about reflection on worldly things. Are you talking about reflection on worldly things? When Shravanam, Mananam is told, it is only on Vedantic concepts.
Yes, in relation to current things, worldly things, when you go beyond the worldly things, why is it happening? Could it be because of this, that's why you go higher thing. When you stop thinking about this, where am I? And then you start thinking, why am I? The cause. And that cause makes you to think. Right?
Instead of thinking, where am I? And you have to think, who am I? That is the question. Who exactly am I?
Not why I am here.
You are here. Why? There is no answer why. You are here because you have done a lot of actions in the past and those actions have to be exhausted. That is your answer. Finished. There's nothing more to reflect on that. That is the answer. I've told you, birth happens because of desires. You had certain amount of desires, no, birth has happened. What has happened in the past? What is the point in reflecting? Why did I get born? You got born, now what to do? You can't reverse the birth. Okay. So don't worry. Don't waste time on things where there are no answers. If you say, why is fire hot? There is no answer. You accept fire is hot. So you accept birth has happened. I have had desires. Okay. Now we explain to you. Desires are of 3 kinds. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So reflect. Is my desire tamasic? Is it rajasic or is it sattvic? That you reflect. If I say, why am I here means what? Yes, I had desires. And it has happened in the past. What will you do? You'll go reverse the birth. Can you do that?
That's my situation. Anyway, so the meditation is just single pointed. Just I am Brahman.
Who am I? Keep reflecting. Who am I? Who am I? When I get hurt, when I feel, who am I? This mind that got hurt and now the mind wants to return. Am I that or am I something else? Am I the witness of the mind or am I the mind? Do I not know that my mind is hurt?
Okay, one more thing. When you said Nirvikalpa Samadhi, in that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, once you are removed like Brahman and everything, even I should not be there because you are Brahman. That level must be, that's it.
It is the capital I, like Gurudev's in Gurudev's verse, capital I, which is Brahman. There is only I, the big I, only I alone, which means this entire world is I only. That's how the I is. Not the small I. When the small I is, then I'm here and you are there. I am here and that is different. And I'm here. That's the small I. When you have the big I, then the entire world is the big I.
I'm getting it little bit mixed up with when in the beginning somewhere it came not with you, but with other teachers, that they show like this, mudra, this, that you and I are one. They show together, we are just you and I.
This mudra in Vedanta, it is called a Jnana mudra.
Uh-huh.
Okay. In meditation, we ask you some teachers will ask you to hold both hands like this.
Yes.
You have to understand the significance of that. This finger, index finger, represents ego. Why? You did this, you are like that, you are points. The three fingers you can take as, there are many interpretations, either the waking dream deep sleep state, sattva, rajas, tamas. So these three fingers have that. And the thumb is Brahman, is God. Why? In the five fingers that we have, the thumb is the most important, because say I don't have this finger or I can still eat, I can grasp. Without the thumb, what will the four fingers do? Therefore, the thumb becomes most important. Thumb represents Atman or Brahman or Jnana. And under the thumb is to be held the ego. This is ego. Index finger is ego. Therefore, this is to be the position that this ego has to come under the Atman.
Okay. Well, what I was taught at that time was, because we point out this finger to others.
Yes, that's why it is ego.
Okay, okay.
No. You did this. You're like that. You're like. That's why there is one, very beautiful saying. Remember that when you point this finger at others, three fingers are pointing at you. So if you say you are such and such, then three fingers are pointing at you. This is ego. This is Jnana mudra. This is called as the Jnana mudra. That's why. Okay, that is the significance of that mudra.
Okay, at other place in this shloka once before, you said that some people, when they come out of this cervical
Samadhi,
they go back, but sometimes they don't, and they fall down. They just
they fall down.
In the society, many people what I have met are they are called like crazy people, or they have lost their mind or something. I do not know, but there were some people, they had reached to some level of their samadhi or meditation, I do not know. But once they come out of that, they lose the balance.
But you have to understand who said that they reached that level, who judged?
Because
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, that is
exactly
true, but at the same time, they were doing at some point really good.
How do you know that? Who is judging that?
Because when they talk some good things.
Talking anybody can do. I told you, professor in university also can talk good. That doesn't mean that he's like that. There was one person who went to the Himalayas. He came back. He said, I have conquered anger. He told everybody, I've reached a stage. I've conquered anger. One person came and slapped him across the face. He got, what do you mean he said, you said you conquered anger. Why are you getting angry? So who is judging? Who is judging? If there is a real realization, they will not say anything. People will know. So don't waste your time with these people. Just waste your time, not waste. Use your time to analyze yourself constantly. This Nirantar Abhyas is to constantly analyze your thoughts. How am I behaving? How did I talk? What this thought came to my mind. Why? What thought is this? Is this Rajasic? Is this Tamasic? Is this Sattvic? Should I act on this desire? Should I not? It's constant self-analysis has to be there. Constant. And that is only this Nirantara, very practice of Savikalpa at our stage. That is what is required.
Okay.
and remain in the present.
Thank you.
Remain in the present. No, don't. Okay, so we
Gary,
will. Yes.
1 minute. I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask, because you mentioned this mudra, I just wanted to ask, are there, I mean, in Vedanta or in our spiritual this thing, do mudras really help in uh, in helping us into thinking or balancing our mind, or like quietening our mind or anything? It was just something because you mentioned mudra. It just
Because in
came into my-
meditation we do say that, and that is the thing, the when you understand what the mudra is,
Hmm.
it'll help you, na?
Okay.
Like it'll see, now it helps me that ego has to be under the thumb, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
the
the
mudras help.
understanding of the mudra will help us, but does
Yeah.
the mudra itself, by
Itself?
holding, does it help us?
That part I'm not sure. Like mantra, yes, Nitya, please.
I just wanted to say that, I mean, aside from the meaning, Tripti ji,
Yeah.
for example, I can only use the example of, when we are falling asleep, you may brush your teeth, you may do certain rituals, making yourself conducive to the state that you want to be. So certain things, the way we set the position of the hand, everything kind of like, take us in that right direction. That way it can be helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
That's good.
Yeah. Because mantra chanting and all that helps, because the
That
vibrations
helps.
in the house,
Yeah.
mantra chanting
Yeah.
and all.
It,
So
it
mudra,
quietens your
yeah,
mind, definitely.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that way, yeah, very good example.
Good.
Then you prepare and then you glide into sleep. Then that is grace.
Yeah.
Preparation is self-effort. We can use that example. Up
Correct.
to preparation, savikalpa. Then after that, you just wait and then you glide into sleep. Okay.